Hi, I'm Dr. Marianne Cintron. I'm the founder of Step by Step Dyslexia Solutions, and I want to share with you something that's going to be very interesting about helping children who are struggling with reading. While I focus on helping dyslexic children, any child can be helped with my reading program. So I discovered the link between music and phonics and how it helped kids read, and it eases the brain of the dyslexic child. Here's a brief description of what my step-by-step program is and who it's for. It's 9 steps. It consists of phonogram cards. We use sound circles. We use plastic letters. Those are to build sounds and recognize sounds. We do phonics reading where students use the music in their left ear. Then we do 2 pre-reading exercises, which are phonologically based. We recognize beginning, middle, ending sounds, and we do sound substitutions. One time we use a whiteboard and one time we don't. Then we have a workbook that the student uses. Grades 1 through 4 use one workbook. Grades 5 through 12 use 2 other workbooks. And then we have a step 8 where we actually teach grammar rules or work in the second workbook if your student's older. And then step 9, we take a spelling test. And we have a scope and sequence that guides the teacher, the tutor, to know if the student's ready for the spelling test or not. Here is what the phonogram cards look like. I have them colored and numbered in the order that they're actually introduced in the phonics reading. And we have pictures that go with them. We call them key concept cards. So they're pictures that represent the letters that are introduced. Then we have sound circles. And if kids need extra support, we'll bring out some Unifix cubes. And then we have plastic letters, which I personally spray paint all the vowels black. And I spray the C and G silver because we have special exercises to teach those. And our new books have a new look. We now have the app. The app is CDSM, CintronDyslexiaSolutionswithMusic. And the app is intended to work with our reading program. So you'll see this is what the app looks like. It's a D&B superimposed over music notes. We have our instruction manual, which is 1A. Then we have our phonics reader, which is 1B. And we have spelling exercises, which is 1C. Then we have our books 3. So you're wondering what happened to book 1. I mean, book 2 are book 2 are the grammar tricks. And there's 5 of those. So book 3 are Black Line Masters. We call those the parental toolbox. Book 4 is the workbook for grades 1 through 4. Books 5A and 5B are for grades 5 through 12. These are the new books. I guess I should put them under group 2. So the grammar books are very fun because we teach grammar tricks. When do you double the letter when you add ing? Just a lot of grammar tricks. A lot of teachers don't even know that. So step 9 is our app. And in the app, we have music, we have letter names and sounds. We have 28 spelling exercises and 8 sentence groups. So first, I want to start off with the definition of dyslexia by the International Dyslexia Association. It's a specific learning disability that's neurobiological in origin, and it's characterized by difficulties with accurate and or fluent word recognition, or by poor spelling and reading abilities. So more easily stated, dyslexia is neurological in origin, so the brain can be retrained. And it's more of a learning difference than a disability. It affects a student's reading, writing, and speaking. And I say that we want to unlock the genius mind of the dyslexic child. So the first question, what neural functions connections do not work for dyslexic or struggling readers? So what's happening is, imagine, so the brain lights up on the left side of the brain when a child is reading. So imagine if a dyslexic child does not have that left hemisphere lighting up, their right side of the brain is more dominant. So imagine that the right angular gyrus is sending the words in the wrong order. It's sending calp instead of clap. It's sending farm instead of from. It's sending saw instead of was. So it's sending the letters in the wrong order. It's sending the wrong letters possibly. And dyslexic kids will often omit letters. And then what's also happening is it's passing over the central part of the brain called the Corpus Callosum. So what Dr. Roger Sperry said about this was that he was popular for the split brain theory in the 1960s, so I'm going to talk about Roger Sperry and Sally Shaywitz. Roger Sperry won a Nobel Prize for his findings. He worked with the left and the right sides of the brain independently. And he said if educators could ever use his information in the classroom, it would help the kids who are struggling with reading. So he severed the central part of the brain called the corpus callosum right here. And you could see right here. So the right side of the brain wants to take over, but when we send music in the left ear, it's going to go to the right side of the brain and give it a job it likes to do. Right here, it loves music. Then we send spelling exercises in the right ear, which are going to cross to the left side of the brain, go directly to the language center. It reminds me of a Monopoly game. Do not pass go, go directly to jail. Go directly to the language center. And it's like Pilates of the brain. This is what is helping our kids make 1 to 3 year gains in only 6 weeks or 30 sessions. And Dr. Sally Shaywitz talked about the different parts of the brain. So all these parts of the brain used to really confuse me until I joined the Orton Gillingham training and practicum, where I got a lot of clarification about the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, the occipital lobe. So there's so many brain parts that are working together to help kids read. The left and right angular gyrus are actually inside here, so they're not even highlighted with the colors here. But all the different brain parts contribute. That's why we want to encourage a multisensory reading approach. How does music retrain the brain so it functions more like the brain of typical readers? Well, what music is doing is going to the right side of the brain and giving it a job it likes to do. So it allows the left side of the brain to be strengthened and developed. So even when we have students reading from the computer, we'll have music in the left ear, which just helps with the auditory processing. A lot of my reading program has auditory and visual discrimination exercises. So the music played in the left ear is going to calm the right side of the brain. Some of the evidence was my first student back in 2004, I worked with a 4th grader, and I gave him 2 columns. I gave him a whiteboard with 2 columns of words to connect. Not only did it take a very long time to see their association, when he actually took a highlighter, his line was very jaggedy. So then I played music in his left ear, and I gave him another whiteboard with 2 associated columns of words, asked him to make the connections, and he made those connections very quickly with a straight line. That was my first aha moment of what music was doing to his brain. The other thing I did with him was I had him read some of the phonics on the computer, and he read them very, very slowly. Once I put music in the left ear, he sped up and he was able to read with a regular flow. So it was so eye-opening that when I had my lunch break, I went to the principal and showed him the whiteboard examples. And I also talked to the parents, and the parents bought the program for the private school. They were so happy to have that for their son. So we also look at what age do students start rhyming? What do you think? They should be rhyming at age 4. So the speech to text association in structured language actually begins in preschool with rhyming, which demonstrates the connection between sounds and the written word. Here is some research by Adam Kuhn. Explicit reading instruction that gives a student the ability to carefully decode words can be difficult for dyslexics, but with accompanying music, they have cognitive attention and attention advantage that will accelerate their success. Stanford University had a study by Dr. Vinod Menon, and he is a professor of behavioral sciences and neurosciences. And he stated when students listen to a piece of classical music with wandering attention, at the point of transition, at the transition point between movements, their attention is arrested. It hooks them in. So the evidence, I want you to see the scores. We have 1 to 3 year gains in only 30 sessions. We have testimonies and scores that reflect progress. The Orton Gillingham approach, kids make 1 to 3 year gains after post-testing, and they can move to level 2 in my reading program. But here's some scores from Cruz. He started with us at age 7, and now he's at age 9. He started not even knowing his letter names and sounds. And now he's comprehending at a 5th grade level, 6th grade level, reading at a 5th grade level. His vocabulary, he started with us at a vocabulary of 8-year-old because he was a smart little guy. Now he's got the vocabulary of an 11-year-old. I have a 4th grader that I worked with for 58 hours. He's 10 years old. He made 7 months growth in 58 hours. I have a 2nd grader who was 7 years old, and she made 9 months growth. And then this is the 4th grader again, and the 2nd grader again. Grade equivalent of a 3rd grade. This little guy, I wanted to show his grade equivalent from a 4th grade. His oral reading quotient, that averages his fluency and his comprehension, went from 4th grade to 7th, 5th grade to 6th. His score went from 106 to 118. It shows his comprehension just jumped a grade here, 1.3. And then also his reading fluency went from a 4th grade level to a 7th grade level. His reading accuracy went to a 4th grade level to a 7th grade level. 2 years growth in these. Reading comprehension had a year growth. And then we have the 2nd grader, the pre-scores. Her rate was grade 1, month 4, jumped to grade 3. The accuracy stayed pretty much leveled, but her combination of scores improved 7 months. and the oral reading quotient was pretty much stable. So the question is, what caused me to be passionate about helping dyslexic children? Well, it wasn't until I actually volunteered in my children's preschool, and I was a room mom. First, I volunteered in their preschool, and the director of the preschool recommended that I take a test so I could be a substitute teacher. I never thought that was going to lead me on the path of education for 21 years. So my mom wanted me to be a nun or a teacher, and I didn't want to be either. She actually said an entrepreneur was someone who was unemployed. So I did my best to stay out of being an entrepreneur and going to college. So when I was a room mom, I saw how strategically those teachers were taught to read and write, to teach reading and writing. And I knew that if they hadn't strategically been taught, they could set those students on a wrong trajectory. So I actually joined the International Dyslexia Association. I didn't learn about dyslexia until I was earning my second master's degree. And I went on my own research to learn about Sam Orton and Anna Gillingham. And in my own discovery, I learned about music and how it helps kids with reading too. The woman who introduced me to that has now passed away, and her curriculum is no longer available. So, the Lord woke my husband up one morning to develop a music app. And with the music app, I knew we needed a reading program. So I got on the track to start creating a reading program. I worked working at the Foothill Christian School. The introduction to using music with that one boy really helped. What really developed my passion was when I had an after-school program, and I worked with 5 low-income school districts, and I trained college kids to be the tutors, and substitute teachers needed work. So there was a student named Daniela. I'm going to name her Daniela. That wasn't her name, but she was an 8th grader, and her grandfather came to us because of the music. And he said he was very concerned because her mom was in prison and he didn't want her to follow in her mom's footsteps. So he came to us after 2 weeks. He started noticing a big change in her, big improvement. And then after 6 weeks, when I told him her post-test scores, he was amazed. And he actually started crying. And he said, our home used to be a battlefield, and now she gets along with us. She's doing her homework. She is getting along with her peers. She's not getting detentions. And he said, this is really a miracle. And he asked me the question that changed my life forever. He asked me, are you a doctor? And as much as I have taken this to the schools, it's really hard to get into the school systems. I thought getting my doctorate in this and having the research base, a deeper research base, would be more convincing, but it's still tricky. But I'm passionate to get this into the schools and to the parents. It took me 7 years to earn that doctorate. And then I traveled for a year with, an organization called Spire, training teachers across the nation to help kids with dyslexia. You know, with Assembly Bill 1369, we were mandated in California to assess for dyslexia and provide intervention by the 2017-18 school year. I was in the classroom at that time. It was not being addressed. So when I left the school system, and then I learned that AB 1369 was signed into law as Ed Code 56335. So I started a nonprofit knowing that I had to do something to help children with dyslexia. So the next question, when did I feel specifically called to work with dyslexic children? You know, well, it's when I actually had a dream that I was going to be the dyslexia expert. And it was kind of scary because calling yourself an expert is quite arrogant, right? but I had a dream that I was going to be publishing a book. And sure enough, in January the next year of 2019, I got on the track to publish my book, A Message of Hope: How Reading Helps Kids with Dyslexia, How Music Helps Kids with Dyslexia. And then working with Spire just really solidified that I was going to stay with helping dyslexic children. And then my husband having that dream of the music app. And I had dreams of cornfields. We all have dreams, right? Our brains are very busy. But I had dreams of cornfields. I had 3 dreams. And I just felt if I built the app, people would come. So I want to tell you the story of Jillian Lynn, who was a young girl. So what else is calling me to know that I'm working with dyslexic people is that I'm meeting a lot of dyslexic adults right now. So for the past few years, I've been sharing about dyslexic geniuses of the past, like Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Alexander Graham Bell. And now I'm meeting dyslexic adults who are making a difference. They're surgeons, they're developers, they're marketing people. The research shows that 40% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic, and that 35% of entrepreneurs in the United States are dyslexic. So I want to tell a story of Jillian Lynn. She was a little wigglebottom when she was in 3rd grade, and her mom took her to the doctors to find out what was wrong because she wasn't reading, she wasn't learning. Now, this is in the 1930s. So the doctor put Jillian in a large room. He turned on the music and he said, "I'll be right back. I'm just going to talk to your mom." So when he left the room, he looked in the window and he saw Jillian dancing. So this is a spoiler because I'm showing you the picture, but Jillian went on to be the lead dancer in Snow White with the Royal Opera House. And then when she was 50, she was approached by 2 directors to be the lead choreographer for Cats and Phantom of the Opera. Now, Jillian passed away in 2018 at the age of 93. So here's some of the statistics. 40% of self-made millionaires. I shared these statistics with you. What I didn't share was 35% of high school dropouts are dyslexic, and 85% of students in special ed under specific learning disability are also dyslexic. 88% of the juveniles in the courts are illiterate. 66% of prison inmates are illiterate. So if kids aren't reading by 4th grade, they're at risk of dropping out of high school and going to prison. 2/3 of the kids who drop out of high school will end up on welfare or in prison. There's 4 areas of strength where dyslexic people thrive, being entrepreneurs, engineers, architects, and in the arts. Leonardo da Vinci was someone who had his hand in everything. And he used to write his people ask, are B and D reversals evidence of dyslexia? And I use the example of Leonardo da Vinci because he used to write script backwards. And I interviewed a lady on my podcast recently who also used to write her words. She used to write backwards in script, and she would have to face it into the mirror to read what she wrote. The brain is just so interesting to learn all the different ways it works. So one of the other brilliant gals I've met at one of the international dyslexia workshops is Christina Bakur. She's actually the treasurer on my board, and she is competing for Miss California. She won the Miss America pageant. So why I share her is, while college isn't for everybody, we need to get everybody graduating from high school so that we have critical thinkers and that we have contributing students. and that they can make wise decisions in their future. But there's also technical school and trade school. And some women may want to just stay home with their kids. So, and there's nothing wrong with being a homemaker. When I went to college, it was meant for me, but if you dyslexic people who want to be engineers, entrepreneurs, they want to be teachers, surgeons, go into the medical field, they're going to need college. So we can actually give them support if we have IEPs for them, which are their individual education plans. And what that support looks like is they're able to, the support looks like they're able to have more time on their test. They can do tests orally, and they may only have to answer one question instead of 4, which are the same model. So how is music used? Music is used in our program, not playing in the background, but it's in a left ear, and it's going to be played in a separate earphone that's going to cross right to the right side of the brain, giving the right angular gyrus a job it likes to do. We use it during the phonics reading. We use it when the child is working in the workbook, and we use it when the kid takes the spelling test. That's when it's very critical to have the app, because I record the music in the left ear and the spelling exercises in the right ear. Here again is the slide that shows what is done. Okay, so question number 4, what is the sequence of skills? So here is our daily planner. It's actually very easy to plan. It's 9 steps. We start with phonogram cards. Then you move to your sound circles or squares, and then we use plastic letters where we follow the scope and sequence to know what letters to use. Then we have 10 minutes reading phonics with the music. We do use our whiteboard for beginning, middle, ending phonemic awareness activity. Step 6, we work in the workbook when we use the music. Step 7, we have another phonemic awareness drill, talking about beginning, middle, ending sounds. And then step 8, we actually have instruction with grammar and phonics rules from our grammar tricks. And then step 9 is when the student takes a spelling test. This is the planning guide. It's a scope and sequence. So if you look here in the phonics reading at step 5, at page 5 of reading phonics, that is when they're going to do the first spelling exercise. So these are the letters. Typically we use the letters that are used in the spelling exercises to have the student practice writing those. But this is a very different drill that we do with my reading program. We pull out these sounds, the P, the D, the PB, DT, and we have them practice saying these sounds before the vowel and after the vowel. Second day, and we could do this up to 3 days. It depends on how easy this is for the student. And then we have a second set and a third set. Then we do letters that are only used in front of the vowel, letters that are only used behind the vowel. Then we use anagrams, which are 4 letters that create 3 to 4 different words. And then we work on consonant teams. And then we actually will use the plastic letters with the words for the spelling exercise. So this is a model of a lesson plan based on the Orton Gillingham model, where you have phonological awareness, beginning, middle, ending sounds are changing. You have a visual drill. You have a drill with phonogram cards. I'm going to show you how similar this is to my reading program. You have the visual drill using the phonogram cards. You do an auditory drill, writing down what the student knows, what sounds he knows. Then we will do a little bit of review of words, which we do in our phonics reading. When we introduce the new sounds, we use the circles, we use the letters, and then for the new words. Then they have a paper where they, then the student reads those words, which we have the student read the spelling exercises before they take the test, and they read the phonics words. Then we have, oh, it's early. Oh, no. Then we have SOS. They have something called where you're sounding out the words. So they have sight words. We don't spend a lot of time on sight words, but we have dictation. And then they have reading, which is an optional component. Usually after 9 steps, we don't have that option. But when I take my tutors to a level 2, we will follow this, and we integrate it into the 9 steps that I use. So we're going to be introducing more complicated vowel teams, and then we'll do an introduction and a review. And then we also use the spelling exercises. So again, the critical components are the phonogram cards, the sound circles for blending, letters for letter name association, reading phonics for visual and auditory, phonemic awareness. We use our whiteboards. We have workbook activities. We teach grammar, tricks, and we have the spelling drills. So I showed you very briefly what these look like in the front. So we have our letters. We have our pictures that correspond with the phonogram cards. And then how I've numbered the phonogram cards, 1 through 19, these are the sets. So you could see that the consonants are taught first. They're the white set and they're numbered 1. And then the vowels are green, they're numbered 2. So we bring those up in this order. And because I work with 4 students in my own program, we recognize that when you're doing the phonics reading, the kids are not thrown off when you teach CH next to TCH, because we teach that they're both the ch sound. So after you're introducing it, it's okay to bring that phonogram card out and give them extra practice with it. What I really think is interesting, Orton Gillingham brings these words down here, wild old words they call them, and also the ink, ank, onk, unk, and then the ing, ang, ong. These don't have to be taught in this order. So when the students are introduced to it in the phonics reading is when I'm going to bring these cards out. With Orton Gillingham, it's very strategic that you're only going to teach ink words by themselves. The next time you're going to review it. Then you're going to teach ink by itself. And then you're going to review it. So it takes a lot longer to get through some of these concepts. And from my experience, the dyslexic kids are ready to take on a higher challenge. And when I find some of the kids that need to slow down, it's very easy. We know when to slow down. So these are the circles. Again, the Unifix cubes, only when needed. I think the children enjoy using them in the beginning, but the goal is to not use them. And then we have the plastic letters. And then step 9 of the spelling test is when we use the app. And it's called CintronDyslexiaSolutionswithMusic. I thought Dunking Dyslexia was a very cool name, but when this marketing group that I'm in say, nope, change that name. So what is the pricing? What the ultimate goal is for me to help you with your child. And that's a 2 to 3 hour assessment and a report for 30 sessions of 30 hours of tutoring. But what I want to do is help people get this out. So there might be paraprofessionals or parents with some educational background who want to try it on your own. So what I'm going to do is give you app access, up to 10 exercises, the reading program, which has the phonics and the spelling and the junior book or a senior book. And I'm also going to provide my first 2 training videos to let you see what my training videos look like. and that's for $117. If that's called do it yourself, if you want this done with you, I'm going to give you my whole kit. You're going to get the music app. It's up to 10 sessions, exercise 10 for free. The reading program has 12 books in it. You're going to get the manipulatives. You're going to get all the digital files. You're going to get the phonogram cards. You're going to get the key concept cards that go with them, 6 training videos. And I'm also going to offer 3 hours of workshops to help you get through certain challenges you may have. So these are what I'm offering. And this is what I'm offering for 30 days. You can take a picture of this barcode of the QR code, which gets you to my website. So there is a link to my store, which is I'll put in the chat, or maybe the operator can put in the chat, so that you can sign up for the 117 or the 349. So another question is, what Orton Gillingham experience do I have, and how does it compare to other programs? I was in an intensive 2-week Orton Gillingham training, and now I'm in my practicum. I'm in the middle of my practicum. I've done 50 hours, and it requires 100 hours of tutoring a student. And at the end of this, I will receive Orton Gillingham certification, but it's not training in Orton Gillingham, it's used in the Orton Gillingham program. Training is another 2 to 3 years. So compared to others, I trained with another Orton Gillingham program called Spire, and it follows the Orton Gillingham model. I received the certification. So this was the 2 weeks. The scope and sequence and the planner are the main differences. And I showed you how they introduce cards one at a time and sounds one at a time, where I will introduce families that make sense to teach together. And here's an example again, a little bit different. We will introduce these sounds with plastic letters with the vowels. We have a special scope and sequence. We have a special order. Here is the planner again. Question 7, when will I offer Orton Gillingham approach? Because my reading program is Orton Gillingham based, I offer it now. I'm using that. For my level 2, it's a little bit, because it's working with more vowel teams, we go to a deeper Orton Gillingham model where you do teach one at a time. But even with that, I'm still integrating it with my spelling exercises because kids like to use the app. Tutoring offered now. Okay, so this is just what I shared, that to teach teachers, there's 2 to 3 additional years of training, but I can teach teachers now with my reading program. And you'll get professional hours that you can redeem. So the Orton Gillingham has many approaches. It's not something you're going to teach to college interns. It's like another credential. It's very rigorous. And after I receive my associate level certification, I have a philanthropist who wants to help me. He wants me to pilot a program where teachers can come and use the Wilson reading program. So how does the app work? Again, the music is played in the left ear. Spelling exercises are played in the right ear. So the app can be used for anybody with the reading program who has dyslexia, but it can also be used in isolation if somebody knows phonics and they just want to listen to how words are pronounced and they want to take spelling tests. So people who purchase the app, they will email me that they've purchased the app and I will send them the list of spelling exercises. But that is something that comes with people who go through the training. And then the research showed that people who used music with the reading came from the 10 to 20 percentile range and jumped to the 60 percentile range in about 12-week sessions. Those without the music still make growth with a multisensory approach, and they achieve the 40 percentile range by having the one-on-one intervention. So I believe dyslexic children can learn to read in 6 weeks. So I developed a reading program and a music app that really work. Those are what I am. Okay, so the structure of the typical classroom is very difficult for dyslexic children who need more time. They need to move, they need to ask questions. If you want to go to the web app, this is the address. Just take a picture of it with your phone, and the password would be that. So classical music resonates with our body. Stringed instruments resonate with water, and our brain is 77 to 78% water. Our bodies are 60% water. And then that's slide 63. 2 inputs at the same time, called the dichotic method of learning. It's free with the Android and iOS, up to 10 exercises. Most, when I'm tutoring with people, I'm on exercise 10 right now. So here's the data. Imagine the kids coming in at the 10 to 20 percentile range. Without music, they achieve the 40 percentile. With music, they achieve the 60 percentile range. What that looks like on a bell curve, they come in here after 12 weeks. I had 30 students, 15 were up here, and then half went to the 60 percentile range. Literally, it was a split. So I had a neurologist recommend that I have a speech, a music therapist in a graduate program collect data for me, where it's called a single blind study. And we could present that so we could write a grant to have brain scans taken. So we're going to have a demonstration. So now I want to show, okay, I'm going to stop here.